Welcome along to another video, guys, and this video is in response to a question I had about offering a bit more guidance, some actual sessions that you can take away and do on the turbo trainer or even out on the road at this time of year that I have found over the years to give you the most bang for buck. The first thing I would say about looking for key sessions on turbos or even out on the road is that there is no magic session. There are certain things that you can do that kind of fast track you, but it's not like there's one or two clever sessions that other people know about and that you don't. They just don't exist. Every session that you're going to do was probably written 20 years ago and people are still doing them now. There's a bit more science, you've got power meters now, you've got heart rate, so you can make it more accurate, more measurable, but the underlying sessions themselves, they haven't really changed for God knows how long. Anyway, with that being said, and I have done a video on this before which is slightly similar, but I'll be a bit more specific in this one. I'm going to pick out 5 sessions that I use with a lot of our guys and girls that get the most bang for buck, the best return, and you can just map the progress. You can see the guys who stick to it and do it well, and the guys who sort of are a bit wishy-washy. Now the first one of these is sweet spot. 3 times 20 minutes in your sweet spot zone. Now, all the sessions I'm going to talk about are going to be based off of power, and they're going to be based off a percentage of your FTP. If you don't know what your FTP is, your functional threshold power, Google it, work it out, it's golden. You need it. You need a power meter, but you need this number to set all of your zones and your seconds off of. Now, sweet spot is a cunning little zone that they've proven can be used to push up your FTP, because basically you either push it up from below, which is a sweet spot, or you pull it up from working harder and working above your FTP power, which for normal people is very, very hard to do. It's that kind of percentage of effort that is doable, is sustainable. And I use a sweet spot zone of 88 to 93% of your FTP, of your functional threshold power. And I like to see 3 times 20 minutes with 3 minutes recoveries in between those 20 minutes. Obviously you're going to need a proper warm up, but that's the protocol that I use. Now you might need to start off by doing 5 minutes, increasing it then up to 10, 15 and 20. But the 3 times 20 minutes is a year-round session that we do. You do it at the start of the year when your FTP is perhaps a bit lower than it might be at the end of the year. It's still bloody hard. It never gets easier, you just keep bumping it up. And that's what's pushing that FTP number up. So that is session number 1, an absolute must-have in your repertoire. Okay, so the second one that I use as another building block and actually can go together in the week with something like a 3 times 20 minutes. And that's 3 times 10 minutes, but at a much lower cadence. So you're working at a kind of 50-60 cadence, somewhere in that kind of range, with a power of between 80 and 90% of your FTP. So you're still working pretty hard, but it's much more muscular strength endurance. It's like going to the gym and doing squats, but specifically for cycling. All you need to be doing is 3 times 10 minutes. We don't tend to make the intervals on these too much longer because obviously there's a lot of force going through your knees there and you've got to be careful, but that really helps, especially early in the season, to build that sort of robust muscle structure that can help you later on in the season. So really straightforward, 3 times 10 minutes, low cadence, 50 to 60, in that 80 to 90% of your FTP range. Dreamy. Third one, and these first 3 are all fairly boring. I'm sorry about that, but these are the ones that work. And this one is 3 times 20 minutes, just using zone 3. I like to see guys start in the middle of zone 3 and try and build to the top of zone 3 as the interval goes through. But you know, you pick and choose how it feels for you. But it's 3 times 20 minutes, zone 3 with an 80 cadence. Now I've found this work at around 80 cadence is a real sort of, you know, I find this is a bit of a secret. You know, a lot of people don't work there unless that's your natural cadence. So dropping you down from 90, and 90 plus if that's where you are, to that 80 cadence and working at those 20-minute intervals, just zone 3, just real consistent stuff. And that follows on from the building work that you've done at the shorter low cadence intervals and just gives you this real strength endurance that then later in the year you can really kick off because you've got that great base. Now as this progresses, these 20-minute intervals can become very, very long. After a period of time you can be doing them, you know, 3 times 45 minutes, you know, really solid long intervals. But that is certainly the place to start. So that would be my first 3, and they are my main 3. I think they're the ones that get results. The next 2 are kind of the icing on the cake. They're the ones that, you know, they're the ones that people want to see in their training diary. You know, they want to see, you know, I've got this one where I've got to get out the saddle and sprint and all that kind of stuff. And they're great, but to me those first 3 are the ones that make the difference. So these last 2, the exciting ones, The first of these is Russian steps, which you might have heard of. It's a real killer. I don't prescribe power for this. I say to the athlete, you know what you can do and just do what you can here. It's about that change of intensity, getting out of yourself what you can for as long as you can. Really straightforward, it's old school, it's a pyramid. Warm up, get yourself up to temperature, get your body feeling good and ready to go, and then it's 15 seconds on. And when I say on in any of these intervals, that means full gas, just go for it. It doesn't really matter what happens, just give it full gas. Just give it full beans. 15 seconds on, 45 seconds off. Straight into 30 seconds on, 30 off. Straight into 45 seconds on, 15 off. Straight into 60 seconds on, 60 off. Straight into 45 seconds on, 15 off, and working back down, 30 on, 30 off, 15 on, 45 off. 2 or 3 minutes recovery, and then you go through that again. You go through that 5 times if you can. That's the aim there, to get through that 5 times. After you've done it 1 or 2 times, you'll start to get a feel for the kind of power and the kind of things you can push out, but that is hard work. It's a mental challenge as much as anything, but there is a lot of bang for buck there. There's a lot of training stress. And as you start to get fitter, you will start to recover in those short time gaps after being on for full gas. So that's Russian steps, an absolute beauty. And the last one I'm going to recommend today is Overwonders. And again, you may have heard of this, real straightforward. Everyone has a variation of this that they like. And it's based upon your FTP again. You really need to know that number and have it dialed in. Make sure it's as accurate as possible. And I like to use 4 minutes under, so 4 minutes at 90% of FTP, immediately into 2 minutes of 110% FTP. You then go back to 4 minutes at 90, 2 minutes 110, 4 minutes at 90, 2 minutes 110. So it's 18 minutes of work all the way through, take 5 minutes rest, and then we go through again. And what we want to try and do is, as we get fitter and fitter, is be able to go through that 3 times. And that is a hard session. But again, as you get fitter, you start to feel like you're recovering, even though you're at 90% of FTP, which is essentially sweet spot. So it's a clever session. It's not a lot of fun. It's a real hard one. Russian steps has got that kind of fun feel because you're just giving it a bit of gas and it doesn't really matter. Whereas this, you're working at those specific levels. It's hard to stick to those zones. So that's 5 key sessions I really recommend. Stitching them together in the right order is really important. Combining it with your long endurance rides at the weekend is going to make a big difference. But just having no structure, going into your turbo sessions and knowing what you're doing, get in there, get on, get off. 70, 80, 90 minutes. If you're doing real quality work, that is more than enough. Complement that, as I say, with your weekend stuff and you will be golden. So I hope that's been helpful. 5 ideas there, 5 sessions that I found to be really helpful to me and the guys that I coach. Any questions or comments, drop it down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, please, that'd be really appreciated. And I'm looking forward to the next video where I'm going to talk about my plans for this year, which have changed quite significantly, and talk you through the race that I'm going to do. Alright guys, thanks for that, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.